Hello everybody and welcome back to the Bones5 YouTube channel on YouTube. Within the Fnaf community, the general fan base is usually focused on the horror, lore, and jump scares of the games. But an often overlooked aspect of these games is the difficulty and intricacy of some of the maxed out custom nights, or the max modes of the Fnaf games. These max modes provided a unique challenge due to their need for precise mechanics as well as a deep understanding of the technical inner workings of each game. The fascination of these max modes led to a full community forming around them. However, no game has split this community more than Fnaf 2's infamous 1020. If you had ever attempted this challenge, then you would know that Fnaf 2's 1020 is generally regarded as the hardest of the first 6 games. But this isn't because it's super mechanically challenging or hard to understand. For a while, the game just simply seemed unfair. And we'll get into why 1020 is so unfair in a bit. But generally speaking, this is due to the RNG or randomness and not the lack of skill from the player. But if there's one thing that the max mode community really doesn't like, it's baseless RNG at the expense of skill-based gameplay. And this made experienced players really dislike the gameplay of Fnaf 2's 1020.
Oh, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. You know, I can always tell whether someone's actually played the games or not just by how they rank Fnaf 2 in a tier list. And if it's at the bottom, they've probably beaten it multiple times.
However, on December 13th of 2023, a new strategy would finally be discovered that removed all randomness from Fnaf 2's 1020. This is how players removed randomness from Fnaf 2's hardest challenge.
Ready? Go!
Because I've already released a guide on how Fnaf 2's AI works, I'm not going to go super into detail about how the basic mechanics of this game work. If you'd like to hear more about that, I'll leave a card to the Fnaf 2 guide video. Instead, I'll be taking a deeper look at the evolution of the strategy for 1020, as it has had an extensive history over the past 10 years. Holy shit, I am old. And it'll make some corrections and clarifications to some of the AI information present in my original Fnaf 2 video, particularly relating to Foxy and Toy Bonnie. With that said, how did the first players beat Fnaf 2's hardest challenge? In the very beginning, and by beginning I literally mean 2 days after the game came out, Fnaf 2 veteran LUCKIEST Fnaf would upload his completion of Fnaf 2's 1020. This was the first 1020 completion in the whole world, and the strategy that he used was essentially just playing the game normally but really quickly. Lucky for us, LUCKIEST Fnaf would document his strategy over the course of attempting 1020 in a Reddit post. One of the most obvious things in this strategy was that every camera except the prize corner, or Cam 11, was pretty much useless, as knowing where the animatronics are provided almost no advantage to the player, and almost anyone who's played Fnaf 2 knows this. It's often a major criticism of the game's gameplay that the cameras just don't really have much of a practical use. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that in about 10 years. In a look at Fnaf's Reddit post, he covered quite a bit of ground with the game only being out for 2 days. His general strategy was based around the tick sound the music box makes to measure out how long to stay on the cameras, and he would adjust this amount depending on Foxy's position. He also states that you should always check the left vent first. The reason being that if someone is in your left vent and you happen to pull your cameras up out of habit, they will instantly kill you. Whereas if Toy Bonnie is in the right vent, there's a chance that he won't kill you on the camera drop. With hindsight, however, we can actually see what was truly going on in this strategy. Let's first talk about Toy Bonnie in the vents. Toy Bonnie has a 50% chance to leave your vent and enter a blackout every 0.5 seconds, no matter what. I actually had this information wrong in my last Fnaf 2 guide, but well-known Fnaf player TruePlayer corrected me on it. This means that Toy Bonnie is prone to draining insane amounts of your music box with bad luck. A Look at Fnaf actually had an interesting way of countering this. If he had little music box left, he would actually flip up the cameras knowing Toy Bonnie was in the vent. This would risk him getting jump scared. He would then drop the cameras immediately to hopefully trigger Toy Bonnie to come out faster, or have a withered animatronic block Toy Bonnie and have him magically go away. But what's actually going on here? Well, let's first determine the risk factor of getting jump scared by Toy Bonnie when pulling up the cameras. Whether or not you get jump scared here is determined by this equation. If Toy Bonnie has been waiting in your vent for 10 minus the night number times 100 frames, which in 1020 equates to exactly 5 seconds, you will get jump scared on the next camera flip. All of the other vent animatronics work mostly the same. Toy Chico will jump scare you after 6 seconds, and both Mangle and Balloon Boy will enter instantly on the next camera flip. Assuming you survive the camera drop, one of two things can happen. Either A, the office animatronic will enter your office and start a blackout, or B, you drop your cameras to no blackout and nothing changes. Let's talk about scenario A first, because more often than not, someone will be waiting to give you a blackout. Office animatronics work on a queuing system, so only one office animatronic can do a blackout at a time. During this blackout, Toy Bonnie has a 1/3 chance to leave the vent every second, leaving just a 13% chance of Toy Bonnie still being in the vent after a 5-second blackout. However, if you don't get a blackout, nothing has really changed except now you've wasted about a second pulling up the cameras. Assuming you didn't use this strategy and just waited for Toy Bonnie to move on his own after the course of 5 seconds, the chance would instead be 0.09%. So despite Toy Bonnie camera manipulation sounded like a cool strategy and concept, the actual AI behind it unfortunately just doesn't hold up too well. The other major component to this strategy was how Oh Look It's Fnaf dealt with the second most annoying character in the game, Withered Foxy. In my original video, my explanation of Foxy's AI was a bit bare bones. You get that one? I get that one. I got it, I got my joke. So I'm gonna go a bit more in detail here. This is the exact equation that determines Foxy's movement, and it's a bit more complicated than the rest of the animatronics. The first part is pretty simple. It just generates a random number between 0 and 4 and then adds 21 to it. However, this alterable variable D is where things get a bit complex. D is the variable behind the flashlight mechanic of Foxy's gameplay. For every second that a blackout is not occurring from any of the withered animatronics or Toy Freddy, alterable variable D will increase by 1. In this example here, Withered Bonnie is ready to start a blackout. From 4 minutes to 4 minutes and 6 seconds, alterable variable D increases by 6, then pauses once the mask is put on to deal with the blackout. D will also increase by an additional 1 per second if you have the mask on with no animatronics present in the vent blind spots. So leaving the mask on for no reason does actually make Foxy angry. This is also why Foxy will still appear when his AI is set to 0, as alterable variable D can and always will increase unless it is manually turned off, and it's only turned off at 2 points in the game, all of night 1 and the first hour of night 2. It's also worth noting that Foxy's AI is actually capped at 17. Assuming it wasn't and it could go the whole way until 20, there could be a scenario in which you'd have to flash Foxy within 1 second or you would just straight up die. Here's a quick visual example of Foxy's AI using a custom night with only Foxy active at 10 AI. Though I could use 0 AI and this would still work. The timer starts almost exactly when the night starts, meaning that on 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and 20 seconds, the game is going to check Foxy's equation. I don't know exactly what random number I got in this situation, but they would have all had the same outcome, so I'm just going to say I got a 24. At 5 seconds, the equation will return 19, which is not less than or equal to 10. On 10 seconds, it returns 14. and at 15 seconds it returns 9. 9 is less than or equal to 10, and you'll notice the funny noise starts playing. This noise plays whenever someone is in the hallway, and now our flashlight cannot shine into the hallway, meaning Foxy has arrived. If you turn the office hall light on, this will decrease alterable variable d by 1 every half second that the light is on. This is true despite Foxy not even being in the hallway yet. Once d is high enough that this equation becomes true, Foxy will then move from parts and service to the hallway. When Foxy is in the hallway, the flashlight becomes much more effective. Every time the flashlight is turned on, alterable variable d is instantly reset to 0, and Foxy is stunned for 50 frames or 0.83 seconds. This prevents Foxy from jumpscaring you, but he won't go away until the flashlight has been on him for 100 times the night number of frames. This is tracked by a second variable known as alterable variable j. Once Foxy returns to parts and service, he won't move for the next 500 to 999 frames. Then the cycle repeats. This equation is checked to see if it's true on 5-second intervals. If you can't keep alterable variable d low enough and this equation becomes true on one of the 5-second checks, Foxy will be marked as got you.
Target confirmed.
Once in this state, Foxy will jump scare you the next time you try to flash the hallway, or on the next 10-second interval if a blackout is not occurring. Now, with our modern understanding of how Foxy works, we can see how LUCKIEST Fnaf decided to combat Foxy in his strategy. LUCKIEST Fnaf used the tick system to measure how long to keep Foxy waiting. Each tick of the music box, which is this sound again, equates to exactly half a second, so it's an easy metric to measure time. Using this, we can convert LUCKIEST Fnaf's chart to seconds. This means that when winding the box for the absolute maximum of 7 ticks when Foxy is present, LUCKIEST Fnaf will be winding the box for 3 seconds. Now, combining this with the time that it takes to flip the monitor up and down, and the time that it takes to flip the mask up and down, and more often than not, D will be set at 4. This means that most of the time, you'll be okay with this strat. But if you happen to get a bad lineup with Foxy's 5-second check, and or some rough RNG with the random number, you could die to Foxy. It's also worth noting that there's no difference between the hallway when Foxy is visible and the hallway when someone else is visible, such as Toy Freddy or Toy Chica. These animatronics take precedence over Foxy when shown to the player, but Foxy is still there and works the exact same. That pretty much covers the original 1020 strategy. I know we spent a long time on this one, but I thought it would be important to correct some of the information that I had in my first guide and go a bit more in detail with Foxy. But what this really shows is that LUCKIEST Fnaf was able to figure out a lot over the course of 2 days, and as we'll see later down the timeline, players only grew more and more knowledgeable of this game's mechanics. Moving away from the first completion, a few more players would beat 1020. One of these players is well-known Fnaf legend DJ Sterf.
Glutton for punishment, man.
What do you mean by that?
DJ Sterf is possibly one of the most influential players in the Max Mode community, and is a pioneer for a lot of the strategies that we use in modern day. And this is no exception. On January 30th of 2015, DJ Sterf was already using a timer. Put into perspective how ahead of his time this man was, a timer wouldn't be widely used until Shooter 25 strat in late 2021. Now, let's actually get into what DJ Sterf was doing. In the description, we can see some strategy tips and information about what the community knew at the time. Most of this information I already covered in LUCKIEST Fnaf strategy, but there are a few key points that DJ Sterf mentions that I feel are worth going over. First, DJ Sterf mentions the iterations, or what we now know as cycles. But you'll notice he doesn't say any values that we're used to, such as 5 seconds or 10 seconds. He instead says 4.67 seconds and 14 seconds. Why is this? Well, earlier patches of FNAF 2 actually had some of the intervals sped up a little bit, similar to the mobile version on iPhone. I didn't cover exactly how this changed the game previously, because it gets a lot more confusing and I like to keep all the information in my videos current, but DJ Sterf's logic still applies here. He says that when you're in line with an iteration or cycle, it will usually get rid of the left vent animatronics, and that if you can flash Foxy at the end of the current iteration as opposed to the beginning of the next one, he won't jump scare you. This is huge for general game understanding, as players now understood that Foxy gets checked at specific intervals. However, not everything was understood quite yet. Toy Bonnie was still dealt with by flipping up the cameras, and DJ Sterf states that this is a guarantee to get rid of Toy Bonnie, even though it actually only has an 87% chance of working. Regardless, the ideas of cycles and intervals now being public will be a huge discovery for the community. This leads us to early 2018, in which these discoveries, along with a few more along the way, would lead to one of the most influential strategies being created. This is the right vent camp strat. The right vent camp strategy was first discovered by Fnaf game player in early 2018, and then later popularized by Ambience in 2021. The basis of this strategy involves waiting an extra 0.5 to 0.75 seconds during a blackout. This completely gets rid of all the left vent animatronics and mangle, meaning you only need to check the right vent for Toy Bonnie after blackouts. Now, what's actually happening here is that you're accounting for the lost time of putting on the mask. Each blackout lasts exactly 5 seconds or 300 frames. So if you took 20 frames to put the mask on, you would still need to wait an extra 20 frames for the game to register that you've had the mask on for 5 full seconds and get rid of all the venters. Though this wasn't known to the community at the time, and just saying 0.5 seconds to 0.75 seconds worked for simplicity's sake. On Fnaf Game Player's original video, we can see a pinned comment from Ambience that details what the community now knew. It was now public knowledge that the vent animatronics, aside from Toy Bonnie, will now always disappear after 5 consecutive seconds with the mask on. It was also known that Foxy should always be flashed within 3 seconds, and if you remember our equation from earlier, that checks out with the worst possible luck you could get. This strategy was much more consistent than previous strategies, and usually had players beating 1020 within 1 to 2 hours. Though there was still some problems. While Foxy and Toy Bonnie were understood much more, cycles weren't fully optimized yet. So if you recall at the end of a 10-second interval with no music box, usually due to Toy Bonnie or a no blackout vent attack, an office animatronic could pull your cameras down and completely run out your box.
No! No! Oh my god, dude!
But the community had almost completely figured out Foxy and the left vent animatronics, and this was because of our next entry in the timeline, DJ Sterf's informational guides. On September 1st of 2019, DJ Sterf would release a 1-hour-long guide video on the right vent camp strat, and would revise it 2 years later with another guide on September 29th of 2021. This is when all the information that I've been talking about, like Foxy's equation, how Toy Bonnie really works, AI caps, and everything in between would all come to light. This is extremely important, as now intricate game knowledge about pretty much everything was known to the community, and it was only a matter of time before someone would create a new, more consistent strategy. And we wouldn't have to wait long for a better strategy, as on December 6th of 2021, Shooter25 would upload his Fnaf 2 strategy, which took what made the right vent camp strat good and made it even better. Now, with the use of a stopwatch, Shooter25 could accurately keep track of the cycles of the animatronics. These cycles would be timed such that it leaves more room for the player to reset Foxy with the flashlight before alterable variable D is checked again. This means that as long as an office animatronic is ready to initiate a blackout when the cameras are dropped, 99% of the time there's absolutely zero risk. However, if you drop the cameras to no office animatronic, the challenge becomes a bit harder, as you'll have to align yourself back on cycle by either timing a Toy Bonnie attack or waiting without winding the music box. Always staying on cycle will keep your camera from being forced down and causing the music box to run out. And you may think that on 1020, there would always be an office animatronic waiting, but everyone's AI except for Golden Freddy and Foxy is capped at 15, which makes the scenario of no blackout possible. Shooter25 detailed what you should do in every single scenario, and this did wonders to make the game more consistent. Top players like Shooter and Braden were able to beat 1020 15 and 5 times in a row, respectively. So is this finally the end? Have we removed RNG from Fnaf 2 and made it consistent enough to beat 100 times in a row? No, we have not. Unfortunately, Toy Bonnie can still end runs with bad enough luck. If you recall earlier in the video, when I got 13 failed movements in a row, though it's extremely rare, that was essentially an unwinnable situation. So if we were going to make Fnaf 2 100% consistent, we can't just deal with Toy Bonnie, we need to eliminate him entirely. Remember about 10 years ago when I said that there's no reason to look on the cameras outside of winding the music box? Well, the Taoist was actually right in thinking to watch the animatronics. Phone Guy says this on night 2.
Models would always get disoriented with bright light. It would cause a system restart or something. Come to think of it, you might want to try that on any room where something undesirable might be. It might hold them in place for a few seconds.
This actually applies to most of the animatronics. Flashing them on the cameras will stun them for 6.66 seconds or 400 frames. However, it's important to make some distinctions between animatronics, as not all of them work the exact same with this stalling mechanic. With the exception of Foxy, who cannot be stalled, the withered animatronics don't even need you to flash the camera. They only require you to be looking at them to initiate their stall. Everyone else, with the exception of BB and Foxy, who are both immune to being flashlight stalled, requires you to flash the cameras in order to stall them. The first application of this tech came in a glitch strat known as -3. This strat would be executed by glitching the game into thinking that you were looking at two cameras. Essentially, when you swap cameras in Fnaf 2, there's a brief moment where you're looking at both cameras. If you pull the cameras down during this interval, the game will think that you're simultaneously looking at two cameras, but keeping your monitor on the original camera before you swapped. This freezes any withered animatronics within that camera, as they don't require the flashlight to be stalled. So, if the game thinks that you're looking at parts and service, but you have your main camera set on the music box, you can wind the music box while Withered Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica are all completely frozen for the entire night. Hence the name -3. Make sure that you do this camera glitch within the first 5 seconds of the night though, as if you wait too long, the withered animatronics will have already moved out of parts and service and therefore won't be frozen. This strategy was originally found by Insta and became the new best way to complete 1020. However, technically it still isn't RNG proof, and it's also a glitch strat which is kinda cheesy. But the logic that -3 used will be used for the final entry in our timeline, -7. -7 was created by Nico Frost on December 13th, 2023, and completely stalls 7 of the animatronics. Essentially, you're going to be holding down 3 cameras with your flashlight. Each of the 7 animatronics we're stalling has to go through one of these 3 cameras at some point. Toy Bonnie and Withered Chica have to both go through Party Room 4, Withered Bonnie, Withered Freddy, and Toy Chica all have to go through the main hall, and Toy Freddy and Mangle both have to go through the game area. From this, Nico developed a timer strategy. First, start the night and wind the box until 7 seconds. Then, flash the 3 cameras and wind the music box until 12 seconds. Flash Foxy, pull the cameras back up, and wind the box again until 17. Then repeat. This entire night revolves around cycles of ending digits in 2 and 7. Which is within that stall time of 6.66 seconds. However, there is still one big problem in this strategy. Balloon Boy is not able to be stalled using the flashlight. This means that you'll have to listen for him in the vents and change your strategy according to 2 scenarios. When you first hear banging in the vents, that means Balloon Boy has entered a vent, but is not yet in the vent blind spot. Once you hear banging a second time, he's entered the blind spot and will enter the office on the next camera flip. You have to play around BB's position extremely precisely in order to keep the animatronics stalled. Remember that the vent animatronics have a 75% chance to move on 5-second intervals when the cameras are up, meaning that if the cameras are down, Balloon Boy will not execute his movement opportunity until they're pulled up again. And this is how we deal with Balloon Boy. Once you hear banging in the vents for the first time, make absolutely sure that you pull down the cameras before the next 5-second interval. If you hear banging a second time, you've already lost and Balloon Boy's in the vent blind spot. Dude, are you f***ing kidding me? Most aggressive BB ever? Literally ever move, dude? Bro. What was random value? 1? However, if you are fast enough, you can wait until the next 2 or 7-second interval, pull the cameras up, flash cameras 4, 7, and 10 as fast as you possibly can, pull the cameras down, flash the hallway, and put the mask on. Balloon Boy has a 1 in 10 chance to leave every second, but a guaranteed chance to leave after 5 consecutive seconds with the mask on. If he chooses to wait 5 seconds, you will need to react immediately to when he leaves, and flash cameras 4, 7, and 10 right away. This window is extremely precise, and when factoring in the average time that it takes for a player to drop the cameras, put the mask on, take the mask off, and pull the cameras back up, you're left with 0.7 seconds to react to BB's vent noise and flash the 3 cameras. Think of Balloon Boy's attacks like one of those Western cowboy duels, when they have to wait until someone says fire and it's a battle of like pure reaction time and speed under insane pressure. This, in my opinion, is the absolute peak of skill when it comes to Fnaf 2. Even with the worst possible RNG, it's still possible to beat this challenge every single time. It always comes down to your own skill. Good RNG can make the run a lot easier, like BB leaving early or failing more movements on his way to the vent, but RNG alone can't kill a run like with Toy Bonnie. Now, I have a policy whenever I cover a game. I will always try to complete the challenge that I'm talking about firsthand before I break down how it works. And this challenge was brutal. If you're going for your first 10-20 completion ever, I really wouldn't do -7 for a strategy. First, complete 10-20 normally, and if you really want to master the game, -7 will be the way to go. My -7 completion was one of the most intense challenge runs I've ever done, and to my knowledge, I was the 5th person in the world to complete it with a video, and I would personally say it's significantly harder than Sister Location's 10-20. So, with that said, this is how players eliminated all randomness from Fnaf 2's hardest challenge.
63 high, coming in on target. You need to move a little faster than that, son. Seat is light.
No. Oh, wait. No. Puppet. Puppet. No, dude. I got... No way. Puppet, you gotta give me 10 seconds. You gotta give me 10 seconds. You gotta give me 10 seconds. Come on. Come on. You know you want to do it. You know you want to do it. Just a little longer. Just a little longer. Come on. Come on. 8, 9. Yes! Oh, let's go. Oh. Oh. Oh my god. Dude. Oh my god, that was so clutch. Dude. Oh. Thank you all so much for watching this video. On screen are the credits for all the people that helped me put this video together, whether it be through fan art or explaining and correcting some of the strategies that I listed in this video. If you would like to be part of the Bones 5 videos in the future, please consider joining my Discord server, as there is now a full character reference sheet for any fan art you'd like to make provided in the server. So if you'd like to submit any fan art or just talk to me in my community, feel free to join the Discord through the link in the description or the pinned comment. I also now have a second channel where I'll be posting more random videos, gaming or non-gaming related. So if you're interested in seeing some content that might be a bit less edited and more focused on either raw gameplay or me and some friends just talking about a particular topic, feel free to sub over there. I have the raw -7 completion already up on that channel. Also, if you'd like to see me do any of these challenges live, I am streaming some of them on this channel. I don't have any set schedules, unfortunately, because of how my schedule is with school, but I will be streaming most challenges, so look out for the lives. With that said, thank you guys all so much for watching. Peace.